Well, hey, church, for our deep dive today, I just wanted to specifically talk about one thing across the five things that we talked about at the end. So, at the end of our service yesterday, at the end of the sermon, we talked about the so what, how we could shine the light effectively against the backdrop of darkness that we live in. And we talked about five specific ways that the early church, stood apart from the darkness of the world around it, and these were provided by a pastor named Tim Keller. And so I want to talk through those five things, but I want the common thread through all five of them I want to emphasize today is the thread of building relationships. Like, the light cannot shine if we do not build relationships, and so that's the common thread that I want to emphasize in all of these. So number one, I want to talk to you about the idea of multi-ethnic diversity and unity. That was the first one that we talked about. So multi-ethnic diversity and unity. What does relationship building have to do with this? Well, I think it's like most clearly shown, like the impact of the gospel is not just a gospel for one kind of people, it's a gospel for all people. And if we are the bearers of the gospel, you know what? Like, our world trains us to build relationships with people who are most like us, who have similar interests to us, who fit in our general age range, who have the same number of kids we have, who live in the same kind of community that we live in. Like, all of our world trains us to build relationships along these kinds of lines so that we are most related to, or have most in common, or we spend most time in relationship with people who are most like us. And so, church, we need to be a compelling witness against that we would actually go outside of the boundaries of people who are like us to become bearers of the gospel for all people. And so what does that look like? Well, specifically in the realm of multi-ethnic diversity and unity, I would hope that Christians are the first ones to actually actively seek out getting to know and love people who do not look like them, especially in a world where we are shown that it's easiest to know and love people who look like us, who are most like us, that we would be a compelling witness otherwise. So relationship building has a lot to do with that. Number two that we talked about yesterday is that the church would care for the oppressed and the marginalized, the poor, the widow, the orphan, that kind of stuff. And so I want to tell you what relationship building has to do with that we would actually go outside of our socioeconomic boundaries, and that we would build relationships with people who are in a different social status from us, who are in a different economic class from us, right? And this is really hard to do when you live in certain communities, because kind of all people who live in one community all have the same relative economic means, right? And so it's hard to do. So we kind of have to actively seek out loving and building relationships with, and having those people, having people in that other class from us pouring into us, and then we're pouring into them, and we're sharing our resources with each other. This was a unique way that the church stood apart from the economic class. So relationship building is important, that we would actually go outside of our typical boundaries, the boundaries that the world trains us to have, and we would build those kinds of relationships. Number three, we talked about a conservative sexual ethic. And so what does relationship building have to do with that? Well, I will tell you this. If you have not effectively built relationships with people who do not think like you, the thing is that your conservative sexual ethic will not mean anything to them. It will not actually stand out, because you don't have any relationships built with people who don't even understand it. And here's the crazy thing. I actually think a conservative sexual ethic can be very compelling in a world that says, yeah, the ethic of consent is the only thing that matters. Like, I actually believe like that the image of God and human beings and this thing that God made called sex is like so much more than just consent. Like, it is so much bigger than just consent. And if we relegate it to that realm, then we're taking away, we're avoiding it of all the value that it might have. And so if we build relationships with people who do not think like us, then we actually have the ability to reflect to them. We have the ability to talk to them about how a conservative sexual ethic is actually a more compelling ethic than just consent. So there's that. And then the fourth piece that we talked about yesterday was the commitment to the sanctity of life. Now, we typically think of this in terms of, we stand up for pro-life issues, and we talk about these in the political sphere and whatever, and so that's good. I want to actually take this a different direction, though, because there is a really clear way that a lot of people in our church right now are showing an incredible commitment to the sanctity of life, and that is this. You show your commitment to the sanctity of life in the way that you care for your parents who are drawing near to death. Because the way that this actually displays so clearly is that you don't just write them off. When all the world says you have more important things to do, you have to keep building your career, you have to make more money, you have to rise, continue rising up the ladder, and you actually say, no, I have this commitment to care for my parents who are in this stage of life, who what you're saying is, I believe that they still have value. I believe that the image of God is still in them. I believe that they are still worthy of dignity and respect and being treated like they are a person who has the image of God in them, right? So you are proclaiming all of those things when you pour that kind of care into your parents who are older. Like, as you care for them, you're showing that investment for them, and then having relationships built with other people who see you caring for them in that way, when they might be inclined to do otherwise, or when they see that you have other opportunity for things to do, but you don't just write them off, you care for them. When people see that, this is why relationship building is so important. When people see that, there's something compelling about that could cause them to ask questions, and it shines a light against the backdrop of darkness that says, actually, no, we believe life is important from womb to tomb. All life is sacred. All life has the image of God written upon it, and we actively can show that in our spheres of influence, not only by standing up for pro-life issues, but by actually caring for those who are elderly among us, right? So that's displayed. Number 5, forgiveness and reconciliation. What does relationship building have to do with that? Well, I mean, it's the way God built his relationship with us. He offered us a chance to be reconciled to him through his son, Jesus. And here's the thing. I've been giving out this call, build relationships, and that's really important. But you know what, relationship building, like where you can genuinely be known by somebody else and you can get to know them, it's a very risky thing. Like, because what you do when you build a relationship with somebody else, an actual deep relationship with another person, you open yourself up to being hurt by that person. And you also stand the potential of hurting them. Like, those two things are existing simultaneously. And so if that's the case, and if you're risking this, here's the thing. Like, if God has lavished grace upon grace upon grace on you through the blood of Jesus, then we Christians should be the first to be willing to step in and open ourselves up maybe to opportunities where we might get hurt, because we should have the greatest resources of grace to be ready to pour out for others, because God has so poured out his resources of grace for us. And so those are the 5 things. We talked through the 5 things. The key thread through all of those, the way that we shine the light in all of those, that light does not shine if we do not effectively build relationships. So here's the call. Here's the so what. Here's the one thing that I want you to do. Alliance Bible Church. By the end of this summer, here's my challenge for you. I want you to build a relationship with one person. Build a relationship and start heading towards depth in that relationship with one person who is not immediately like you. I think that is the clearest way. If we could be a connecting, relationship-building people, this is the clearest way that our light is going to shine, because then we actually have spheres. We're expanding our spheres of influence to new people who actually have the chance to see what this light looks like. So that's my challenge for you today. I hope it's well. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I love you all, and you won't get any more videos from me this week. Andrea and I are going to visit my parents, so this is the last video that you'll get from me this week. We'll still send out the prayer requests, and we'll send out the discipleship corner with Pastor Don. But no more videos this week, and we will see you again next week. Pastor Don will be preaching with you all this Sunday. So thank you all, and I will see you next week.